Sometimes it bugs me that Armstrong and Shepard get all the credit. But we all wanted to win the Cold War. And we were ready to commit our lives to getting the biomedal. The military boys used all the material that had fallen to Earth. And they still needed more. They went looking for a few cowboys to do the job. And in the end, they orchestrated the world's biggest cover-up. They snuck a whole army into space and not a soul knew a thing. But now it's time. People should know why it was so important that we won the space race. People should know what happened to all those who went missing. The dead should get their honors, and they should have their place in history. Because history has a way of repeating itself. The action on the moon got intense, but it was only the beginning of what was to come. The Soviet surprise attack caught us all with our pants down. We never even had time to bury our dead. Mars, the Greek god of war and the blood-red planet. There couldn't have been a more appropriate place for uncovering the origins of this material that we'd fabricated into such amazing weapons. When we left, in some ways we knew more, and in some ways we knew less. But we sure did further the legacy of Mars. The object we discovered when we first touched down on Mars confirmed the nagging feeling in the back of all of our minds. We knew the biometal wasn't natural. Someone or something had created it. Now we held an object that contained their complete historical record. Locked away within its enigmatic recesses were untold weapons and vehicles and countless anecdotes that would tell us who these people were and where they'd gone. For now, all we knew was a name, the Chthonians, but we had a new imperative. We had to explore every nook and cranny of the planet's surface. We had to learn everything that they knew. We became anthropologists uncovering a lost civilization whose knowledge could literally raise us amongst the gods, and whose weight could crush us forever. By the end of our time on Mars, we'd all learned to question our individual value in the grand scheme of things. Collins gave us orders that left some of our people to die. Nobody wants to be responsible for their friend's death, but no general wants to be responsible for losing a war. We learned to trust our generals and to follow their orders. But we all feared the day that we would be abandoned and left to die. There was no love to be found on Venus, only vengeance. We were there to take back the relic we lost on Mars. But it was so much more to all of us. This was a time for us to strike back for the countless friends we'd lost during the savage attack on the moon. As we dropped through the churning atmosphere, the bolts of lightning and the putrid green clouds set the stage for what lay ahead. We were about to launch the biggest invasion since Normandy. We weren't taking any chances, and we weren't taking any prisoners. With the radar array destroyed, we landed a massive force on Venus, and quickly moved to gain control of the relic. We were cocky, thinking that we'd march right through the Soviet lines. We were in for a major surprise. Our attack on the Soviet base really opened our eyes to the power of the Chthonian relics. The Soviet walkers killed hundreds of NSDF recruits. For the first time, every one of us fully realized that the war and our survival depended on controlling the technology. When a Soviet platoon escaped with one of these relics, each and every one of us begged for the mission to recapture it. I still don't know if we acted out of fear or bravado, or perhaps the two blended together at the extremes. On Io, we descended into the depths of the abyss with orders to bring it out. It. What was it? Our newfound relic told us about it, but nobody outside S&T knew for sure what it was. It was rumored to be a new technology upgrade resulting from the biometal research the Chthonians performed on Venus. They called it Project Furies. All we really knew for sure was that the Soviets were going to make a play for it. So we had to do the same. The race goes on. We beat the Soviets to the relics, and finally took the upper hand. Now came our move to fully take advantage of our newfound prize. After Arkin made off with the alien relic, we spread the fleet to comb the nearby CCA bases. The Freedom went to Ganymede, and the Liberty to Callisto. Finally, we found a CCA outpost on Europa and planned to infiltrate their base and tap their communications tower. It was our most stealthy mission. We had to sneak in unnoticed. The transmissions we intercepted indicated that the Soviets had moved Arkin and the relic to Titan. We all wanted a shot at taking the traitor down. But first, Collins wanted to make sure the CCA forces there wouldn't be warned we were coming. He gave the order to obliterate the CCA's presence on Europa. While the rest of our forces headed towards Saturn's moon, Arkin and the relic, we were facing a crucial mission. We had to be perfect. Europa must remain silent. After cleaning up Europa, the Justice moved on to Titan, where the war raged on the moon's surface. When the Liberty and Freedom arrived, they detected a slew of unidentified vehicles, and the NSDF moved to quickly attack the Soviets' new technology. It was a massacre. They'd lost everything. When we arrived, all that we found were 3 distress signals. With the creation of the Furies, the biometal reached new levels of technical sophistication. They were no longer mindless machines used as a tool to defeat an enemy. They had acquired some sentient trait that seemed to revel in our pain. It was clear that we all faced a far greater enemy than ourselves. Together, we began to understand the fate of the people who created this technology. We gathered every resource we could find, and engineering equipped us with new weapons. It seemed like a futile battle, but we had to destroy the Furies. Their numbers were increasing, and we could feel their ambitions grow. They were sentient. We knew that from the database. They loved to kill. We saw that. It was only a matter of time before they found Earth. There was nowhere to hide. Our only option was to stay and fight for our lives, and the lives of everyone back home. The Furies moved to a small moon called Achilles, whose name said it all. They had acquired some technology that seemed to make their metallic skins invincible. We felt small and weak, but we knew that these monsters had been destroyed once before. We'd found their pieces scattered around the galaxy. We had to find their heel. All we could ask each other is, where is the chink in their armor? When we took out the factory, we got our answer about the fate of the Chthonians. To destroy the evil they created, they were forced to destroy their world. We thought we had finally won. But the Furies had one last surprise in store for us. History comes full circle. Sometimes humanity survives. Other times, it's obliterated. We tell stories to help us remember history, to keep us from reigniting a war that would who follow the trail, who reconstruct my nightmare.
Just 4 years ago, I was standing in my father's field, looking up at the stars. Sometimes I don't know how I got here. I was supposed to be just another nobody in North Platte, fixing up the truck so it'll last until the next loan comes through. But ever since someone told me that people were up in space, guys just like me, I knew I had to go. In training, they told me about the biometal wars in the 60s, back when Russia was Russia and they were the bad guys. Now they say it's all about maintenance, keeping a lid on the peace, dividing up the biometal, moving forward together. Until I got into secret ops. And trust me, there's a lot more to the ISDF than just keeping the peace these days. So now we know what we're fighting. Monsters. But did Manson know? Or the rest of those men on the Cerberus base? Did they even know what hit them? If I'd joined up just a few years earlier, that could have been me, trying to hold down an outpost on Pluto against an army we're not equipped to fight. I've seen those telegrams go out to the families of the men that were killed. They don't explain anything. Your son died for the cause. But whose cause? The ISDF's? Braddock's? Maybe the Cerberus base will hold the answers. Once we got inside the Cerberus base, I thought my questions would be answered. But each corner I turn only brings more questions. I talked to one of the men in Manson's squad. There's a few of them still alive, recuperating in the medical unit. He wouldn't say much, but I couldn't tell if that was because of the fear in his eyes and the burns on his body, or because he really didn't know. I was always prepared to face the fact that someday I might have to die for my country, but I never imagined that I might have to die for something I knew nothing about. But in the military, orders are orders, and they don't always come with an explanation. Major Manson's safe and sound, and Cerberus base is back online. I'm not sure what's next. Some of the guys are saying we should just pack up and leave. We weren't supposed to be here in the first place, right? We rescued our soldiers and found out who were fighting. But Braddock's determined to stay. He wants the planet back. And he wants to fight. If defense was this hard, I can't imagine what offense is going to be like. I'd never even known this place existed before. And here I was on a ship heading down to land on it. It doesn't look like the Earth does from space. The big blue marble you always see in pictures. This one's almost black. You can barely tell where space ends and the planet begins. Even the satellites have a hard time picking it up, as if it's not really there. Shabayev came to my bunker that night and chewed me out for getting lost. I didn't know what the heck she was talking about until I saw yesterday's logs. Manson reported me AWOL. I wish I could tell Shabayev the truth. I don't want her to think I actually spent the entire day wandering around lost while she was fighting scions. But I promised Manson I'd keep my mouth shut, and now my signature's on a report headed for Braddock. I thought all I had to do was follow orders. But around here, sometimes the orders come from 2 different directions at once. Eventually, you gotta choose a side. Could this be right? Could that have really been the order, to head into a wormhole halfway across the universe, God knows where? Somehow I don't think that was the plan that passed through the AAN. Everyone's scared to death. No one knows who to obey. Braddock says one thing, Manson says another, and then Shabayev. She's a good commander, but she plays by the rules. And this is one place where the rules don't apply. The ruins fascinated me. It was like one of the scenarios from my training manual brought to life. Could this really be the language of the Sithonians? I'd seen pictures of this script, but I'd never seen it in person. It's so beautiful. Even when I don't know what it says, I can translate a little, but not as well as Commander Shabayev. So perhaps it's best she stays here while I get back out in the field. I feel a little guilty back in the safety of the base, while Commander Shabayev is still out there. I should have taken her with me, but it doesn't matter now anyway. I'm headed right back into that jungle, right back face to face with the scions, with only a minute to catch my breath. But Shabayev's still out there, and I've got a long way to go before I can rest. The close call in the ruins gave me half a day in sickbay. They patched me up and sent me out for the next mission to attack the Scion base, but it was enough time to myself to really think about things. I always knew that soldiers die for their country, but it seemed noble, what politicians talk about while they're waving the flag and sending men off to war. I never imagined it would be like this, down and dirty, seeing death on some strange planet, not even knowing what I'm fighting for anymore, almost killed by my own general, just a pawn in another man's war. I brought Commander Shabayev back safe and sound, and just in time for her to get right back in hot water with General Braddock. There's a long history between those two, and I don't want to get in the middle of it. The only thing that matters now is the battle on Bane, and keeping the Scions from taking away our home. There isn't even time to be grateful for the rescue. I'm already heading back out into the fire. But Manson needs my help, and Recon has a pinpoint on the second Scion weapon machine. As soon as we get those last two puppies down, I think we're out of the woods. At least I hope so. I was shocked to hear that General Braddock was suspended, but he doesn't seem too worried. I'm not too happy about having to go face to face with one of these Scions, and the leader at that. But Braddock assures me it'll all work out. Though I know that his idea of working out is usually different than anyone else's. I can't believe I'm a major. My father would be proud, but it came at such a high price. I had to lose two valued colleagues, with Shabayev gone and now Manson. If I ever get back to Earth, I'm going to build a memorial. Someone has to remember those who've given their lives out here. Everything that Braddock told me, about the Scions, about how he was responsible, I didn't have time to think about it. I didn't want to think about it. I couldn't believe that the enemies we'd been fighting all along were once human. But they're not human anymore, and that's all that matters. Like General Braddock says, let's shut this planet down. Descending into the core planet, I feel like a surgeon. It's a body, it's a brain, all the tunnels intertwined, creating a network, a living, breathing organism. And it's dying. I can see it. The quarries are running dry, the structures are falling apart, but instead of healing it, I'm here to destroy it. This planet is keeping the Scions alive, and to destroy the race, we must destroy its core. I know I've had my doubts, but it all comes down to loyalty. Braddock is still the head of this army, and I have to be ready to follow him into hell. I took an oath when I joined the ISDF, and I refused to betray my superior officer just because of a few suspicions and rumors. When you can't tell what's right and wrong, you just have to go where you're told.
The Scions gave me the same gift they gave Yelena, fusing my human body with biometal. It's impossible to describe the sensations that rushed from my head to my toes. It was as if they opened a window I never knew was there. I suddenly knew things. I felt things. I could do things I never could before. It was awesome, but unsettling. And a small part of me longed for the simple, regimented life that had once been enough. I couldn't believe the new Yelena when I saw her for the first time. She was no longer human. The Scions had remodeled her in their image, using the biometal technology Braddock himself had once pioneered to create a master race. It turns out the Scions were just the new, evolved generation of the Black Dog Squadron. The rebels that escaped from under Braddock's thumb during the biometal wars of the 60s. Here they had retreated to their own solar system and immersed themselves in the culture of the Sithonians. Yelena was right. The landslide was just too precise to have been an accident. Either the ISDF was using a stolen Scion craft, or there's a Scion traitor in our midst. Yelena feared telling Padishah Burns, since she knew he'd be more than disappointed at the possibility of rebellion. Once the base was secured, the Padishah arrived to install the power crystal into the alchemator that lay inside. These battles aren't easy. It's hard to take aim at the men I once fought side by side with, but I have to believe that Padishah Burns' intentions are only good. With the third power crystal safely in hand, Yelena and I traveled to Rend to activate the last alchemator. It looked easy enough, but by now I'd learned to expect danger at every turn. So now, even some of Braddock's own men see through his corrupt intentions. Manson has taken up with other ISDF soldiers to form an army of AAN loyalists, and Braddock and his new regime are staging an assault on Manson's base. I've got to help Manson defend his base before it's too late. Burns thinks the AAN is a potential ally, and if we allow them to be destroyed, there's little hope for us against Braddock. This situation sure makes for strange bedfellows. Scion fighting Scion, and human fighting human. But in the end, there are only two sides, the truth and Braddock's web of lies. Manson offered us a glimmer of hope, but we still need to bring Braddock down before the Scions can go anywhere. Time is running out. I can see it in their eyes. More and more of the Scions are getting sicker, unable to fight. With the core planet dying, there's just no energy to keep them alive. The very biometal inside them is falling apart, losing the thin thread, the wisdom of the Sithonians that holds it together. We've got to get that last crystal back. At this point, there's just no choice. I knew Braddock was corrupt, but I didn't realize just how far he'd gone. To kill your own men, to conquer your own planet, all in the name of power, in the name of controlling something, biometal, that really no one can control. And we're all just roadkill under Braddock's tires if we don't stop him now.